Welcome back to Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and today is a review of The Amazing Spider-Man #1. Oh my god, here we go again. Oh god, it's another volume of Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man to be specific. This is Legacy 895, 895th edition of The Amazing Spider-Man comic book. And we have Zeb Wells on, on the story, and we have John Romita Jr. on art, and then we have Scott Hanna on inks, and Marcio Menez on colors. This is 60 years of Spider-Man, and I hate this book. I do not like this book. This is a frustrating situation because, you know, they tease a new volume of Spider-Man. Honestly, to tell you the truth, if this is what you're going to do with Spider-Man, there's no real reason to do another volume. Just say, hey guys, we're just going another direction and go again. But you know, Marvel is great at getting people to buy #1s all the time. And so it doesn't matter if they're going to put a garbage story in it. As long as there's a #1 slapped on the front of that mother, it's going to sell billions, right? Wrong. It's not going to sell billions. So before I get further into this, I want to talk about the fact that about a year ago, I did a video about the worst comic I ever read. And it's Action Comics 1026. It's by Brian Michael Bendis and John Romita Jr. Now, my favorite comic book characters are Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man, right? Oh, and Deadpool. I love Deadpool. But, you know, for the three main big ones, these are my favorite comic book characters. And John Romita Jr., while he can draw, I hate his art. All right. What he does, you know, here's the thing is that I know that he can draw better than he does, but the drawing that he does on these books is terrible. I can't stand it. And it's like he's lost his ability to draw certain things. And I'm going to show you examples of what I'm talking about here. But while I'm ranting about this, the original video that I did about Action Comics 1026, I'm going to show you some of these pictures, right? Look at this picture of Supergirl. It's like, what the hell happened to her head, right? Look at this picture of Superboy. Honestly, it looks like it was drawn on the back of a napkin in a diner. The art is just terrible. All of that is bad. But the creme de la creme of what I hate most about John Romita Jr.'s artwork is what I call corduroys, right? All right, so look at Spider-Man here. By the way, why has he got mascara? Why does Spider-Man have mascara? Also, why is he toe-headed? Why does his head look like this? This is not what a normal human being's head looks like. But look at these lines here. These, I like to call them corduroy lines, but really what they are they're shading lines. And Romita is like, I don't know if he's trying to do some kind of like, you know, 18th century etching here, but it looks like trash. And the reason why it looks like trash is because in 2022, we have digital coloring abilities. So you have a colorist, Marcio here, or Marcio, whatever his name is, he's the colorist. And when you're drawing these like lines like this, right, you're basically taking away his job because he doesn't even know whether or not he's supposed to add any shading here or not. Clearly, he's added a little bit of a gradient, but it looks like garbage, right? And so there's lots of examples in this book of John Romita drawing garbage. So we're going to address some of those, but ultimately, the main reason why a book is successful or not successful is the writing. And the writing on this book is terrible. It's a terrible story. In fact, it pisses me off. It's that boring. It's just a long-ass book of Peter Parker being broke and being a dick to people, right? I know that Peter Parker is supposed to be one of the regular people out there who doesn't, you know, have any money, but he's got these superpowers. He's a freaking genius, and he can like build these web shooters that he shoots these, you know, the super high tensile webbing that dissolves in 3 hours that he could be a billionaire for, but he runs around not being able to maintain a job or anything of the sort, and it just drives me up a wall that we're rehashing this again. Now, I know in the letter section of this book, Will says, oh, we've got a great story planned out, and you just got to stick with us. But you know what? This is issue #1, and issue #1 needs to have an awesome story, and this one does not. It's terrible. We've got some kind of lead off here to start the story, but it doesn't really explain what happened. And it's just irritating because you go all the way through the end of it, and at the very end, spoiler alert, okay, I'm going to do a countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here's a spoiler. Dun, 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 dun. Spoiler, spoiler. Mary Jane has children, and they don't appear to be Peter's children. And I'm like, screw that, right? Screw it. You know, I don't really want this kind of stuff in a Spider-Man book, dude. You know, I just don't. It's not interesting to me. So MJ belongs with Peter, and I'm sure that they've got some kind of plot or some kind of explanation for it, but I'm not here for it. That's not the content that I'm here for. So honestly, I hate this book. I'm not here to read Peter Parker being a dick. I'm not. I'm not here to read MJ. It looks like it's set up. It's probably not the case. So I'm not gonna claim it, but it does look like she's married to some other dude in this book. So I'm sure that they're going to play that off, and that's not going to be the case. But you're meant to be left with that impression, and I don't want to be left with that impression. I'm tired of it. There's one thing I will tell you that I do like about this book. The quality of this book is very nice. In fact, the quality of the printing, this kind of glossy-esque kind of magazine cover. This is like a real magazine cover, by the way. It's none of this like toilet paper that they're printing these other books with. So this is actually high quality paper. So I will give the book 2 out of 5 stars for the quality of the paper. But I can't even get into awarding it any kind of higher rating because of the fact that the art sucks, right? It does. Nothing personal to John, but the art sucks, okay? It just does. Spider-Man's head is inconsistent from panel to panel. Sometimes it's round, sometimes it's chunky, sometimes it's oblong, and you have to have consistency. So here's some examples of things that drive me crazy about the art, right? Here is Aunt May. Look at Aunt May's face. Aunt May's face looks like they've skinned her, and you're looking at the musculature, and then they just repainted it to look like it's actual skin. This is not what old people look like, right? This is not what old faces look like. It's just terrible. And then you've got Peter in the very next panel. Look at his tiny, beady little tiny eyes. No one's got eyes like that. You know, if you go to the page over here, you know, look at this image of Peter's eyes. These are big eyes, but they're still too close together. It's like John has forgotten what human beings look like. So don't come at me with, oh, it's stylized. I don't really care. Furthermore, you know, it's not like he doesn't know how to draw larger eyes, but here's his friend, Randy. This guy's eyes look like a Rancor. They're tiny little eyes. Actually, speaking of stars, it kind of looks like Maz Katana from The Force Awakens. She's got these big, like, butthole eyes. So this guy's like, look at the eye sockets. Anatomically, this is ridiculous. It's like Romita doesn't know how to draw faces anymore. And if you look at his original art, and here's some art from Amazing Spider-Man 229, and you can tell that even though he's drawing it very Kirby-esque here, he still at least knows how to draw people. But if you cut back to, or fast forward to 2022, the art here is, you know, he's progressed, but it's just bad. It's like he's gone with a hyper cartoony look, and it's a bad looking hyper cartoony look. And it just looks terrible. Look at Peter Parker's face here. Look at his tiny eyes. Look how tiny his eyes are. And here's the, oh God, this is the worst panel. This is the worst panel in the entire book. What the hell is Peter doing here? I mean, he's trying to put a phone in his pocket, but it looks like it's like they cut out his midsection and attach his ass to his lower rib cage, right? And what the hell is this with you know, I mean, it's this, everything about this picture is bad. It's bad. It's terrible. And I expect better from the flagship comic book from Marvel Comics. So I don't care what anybody says, the number one book, the most important book, if they got rid of all the other comic books that they print, all the other titles, the number one, and they only had one title left to print, Marvel Comics would be printing The Amazing Spider-Man. And this book requires the best that you can bring. It requires your A game, your AAA, bond-rated, best of the best of the best. And this garbage does not cut it for this book. Now, I was talking to a guy at the comic shop, and he was saying that, you know, you can get, as long as you're getting across the point, it's fine. I'm like, well, yeah, that's fine for some comics, but not for The Amazing Spider-Man. The other art that drives me crazy in this book here is this guy, right? This is a guy who is harassing Peter outside of his apartment. And I mean, is this guy a Funko Pop here? You know, is he a hobbit here? I mean, look how big his head is in relation to his shoulders. The dude is just wildly out of proportion. You could stick his feet probably in his mouth. You could probably stick both of his feet in his mouth. But here's Peter. He's closer to you and his head is smaller. There's just no excuse for it. It's so incredibly disappointing. The story sucks. The letters say, oh, just stick with us. But, you know, and I'm going to have to stick with you because I have to review the book for my channel. But I will continue reading this book, at least for the next couple of issues, to see if they have if they got anything to say for themselves for this horrendous thing. Oh, God. A brand new Spider-Man volume, and they lead off with rehashing things that have been hashed for 60 years, right? They're even telling you it's been 60 years that we've been doing this, and we still are going to make you go through a bunch of stuff that you've already done. It's like when they make you watch Bruce Wayne's parents get shot in every freaking Batman movie, nearly all the time. So I don't want to see that stuff again. I want to see Spider-Man fighting villains. I want to see him coming back to his hot babe, Mary Jane. And I want to see them, you know, just trying to get through life together. I don't want to see Mary Jane with somebody else's kids. And I don't want to see Peter Parker acting like a dick and not even being funny. The Spider-Man quips in here are lackluster. I'll just leave it at that. They're just not up to snuff, especially with stuff that we were reading previously. And I know that Zeb has written some issues from the previous volume of Spider-Man, but I'm sorry, this is just not cutting it for me. So, The Amazing Spider-Man, #1 or number 895. If you're into the whole legacy thing, it's 2 stars. It's 2 stars because the quality of the book, production value is nice. It's a nice looking book from that perspective, but the art is subpar and the writing is subpar. And I can't sit there and blow sunshine up your butt and tell you that it's fantastic when it's not. So there you go. This has been Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and I'll catch you next time.